I am super pleased to be with you today. I have Corey Davis, the amazing Corey Davis, with us for this conversation that we haven't had before, but we'll have for 30 minutes. And Corey, tell us a little bit about you and kind of what's up right now.
Right. So, for me, I'm just so grateful to be with you today, Marte. So thank you for the invitation. My work really is with helping social impact leaders who are queer and trans people of color and allies to build more resilient communities that thrive even in the face of crisis, transition, and tragedy. So I guess this is a good time to be having this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us just a little bit. I know you all have been very involved with the census. Can you just give us a little bit more background as to kind of why that is something important for the LGBTQ community and what role you all have been playing in it?
Yes, absolutely. So for us, our work with Maven Leadership Collective, I think, has been super important around the census because the LGBTQ community sits at multiple hard to count communities. So communities of color, LGBT, undocumented folks, you name it, there's really people experiencing homelessness. That for us was really compelling. And because we care so much about civic engagement, we said, okay, this is someplace that we need to work. And so we've been able to launch a campaign called #US Census through the Miami-Dade Counts Census initiative led by Miami Foundation. We've been able to do a really wonderful job at being able to reach these communities through a social media campaign that looks like us, through training with community partners, really being able to dedicate the time and attention and resources that is needed to reach these hard to count communities.
Amazing. So what have you found so far? What has been the result of that?
Well, I think the result of that is people saying, I didn't know that the census was so important. I didn't know how people got counted in the census. I didn't know what the census meant to my life. I didn't understand that it impacts hospitals and schools and community services, representation in the government. I think also people are questioning why it is that the census is not inclusive, really, that there's not really an opportunity for people in the LGBTQ community to show up and be counted as their full self, because all of the identities are not accounted for. You can't, there's not a way for you to really show up in the census. Nonetheless, it's still important to be able to be counted in this time.
Maybe in another 10 years, we'll have all sorts of identities represented and
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
But tell us, so I filled out my census maybe a couple weeks ago when I first got the invitation to go online. It took like 3 minutes or something. So I definitely think it's easy, and yeah, stand up and be counted. We'll put the hashtag in the recording on YouTube, and hopefully everybody is amidst all of this stuff that is also happening right now.
Right.
Everybody's counted. So tell us a little bit more. I think you're one of the most fascinating, amazing people I know. And tell us a little bit more about how did you get to what you're doing right now?
Well, I've always really cared about civic engagement and making sure that I have roots in the community that I live in. So it really was born, I think, in this iteration out of volunteering in South Florida and realizing that we could do a lot better in having representation throughout our social impact organizations, and that there's a tremendous amount of talented people who just need the platform and the resources to be able to put their fingerprint on our communities, and we're all the better for it.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And tell us, Maven is what, 3 years old now? 4?
Yeah, so tomorrow we actually celebrate our 3rd anniversary. We operate here in South Florida as well as Central Florida. We have a wonderful growing community of Mavens who really impact their community in a variety of ways: immigration, climate change, access to the arts, public education, access to health, public service, affordable housing, you name it. They are working to make our lives better. And their work right now impacts more than 90,000 people each year directly. So we're happy about the way that the community of Mavens is growing. And in such a short amount of time, we think that they've had a tremendous impact on our community.
Amazing. Definitely. And I love that statistic. It's so good to be able to tell your story in a way that is not just kind of like a story, but also giving facts. So tell us more about that. I was on a call earlier today and we were talking about crisis communications and how to create a brand that actually serves not only, you know, programs and the funding that you will survive this, but how are you going to look at the end of this based on the choices and how you communicate about them right now? I'm interested to hear, like, how do you decide to tell the story? Like, what are the elements that go into the story that you're telling of Maven and of yourself as a leader?
Well, I think that the most compelling aspect of why Maven Leadership Collective exists is because we are all better off living in a culture of diversity and belonging. So as we make more inclusive spaces, we're able to make better informed decisions. We're able to tap into new and growing talent. We are able to benefit from the dollars of new markets and consumers. So it's really about having a collective approach to resilience. And we feel like, particularly in this time, the organizations and individuals who are able to tap into the broadest network are the ones who are able to face this moment on the strongest possible footing. We've been saying that for quite some time, and I think now this is an opportunity for people to see, are our community partnerships as strong as they can be? Are we in good communication with the most vulnerable members of our community? If we say that we're for the social good, are we really getting resources in a rapid way to these constituents? And I think the more diverse your organizational culture is, your individual network, the systems that you depend on, the more diverse they are, the better off and more resilient you are.
That's amazing. And that goes to really the idea of, why is it Maven Leadership Collective? The idea is you make change in groups, you make change in networks, you don't make change by yourself.
No, absolutely. And our learning model is learn, play, share. So it's not enough really just to take on the more traditional thought about what leadership development is or professional development is, and that there's focus on usually a very charismatic, singular leader. That's not really how we found the best models to exist. We find that in our signature program, this Maven Leadership Cohort, we rely really on making sure that people feel that there are meaningful, long-lasting relationships that expand their network. And because we operate from Miami-Dade up to Palm Beach and then throughout Central Florida, with Orlando being the center, we're able to have this cross-pollination of ideas, of strategies, of resources, and people can feel freely across the regions to be able to say, hey, I need some help. Can you help me with this? And I think it's been tremendously successful. Our program evaluation has shown that, but also I just think in this daily practice, it's really been very good. The other day I was on a call for for a response to COVID-19 that Central Florida is doing. We're happy to be part of the One Orlando Alliance, as well as other organizations that are led by Mavens, graduates of our program. And there is a new COVID relief fund for Central Florida that is working within the LGBT community to make sure that we are getting resources in the hands of people who are often overlooked. They may be the unbanked, they may be people who are experiencing homelessness, they may be young people, they may be people who are in between employment, they may be people who are returning citizens. Whatever it is that your experience is, they want to make sure that we are able to get funding to you in those times of crisis. And I liked seeing how it was like, well, I can do this and I can chip in here and I can get the word out there. I think that working together really is the best approach. And the more that you have diversity in that approach, the more successful you'll be.
I love that. That is also making, so you said you now have a network basically that has got people and resources, and people need help, but a lot of times people don't ask for help because of, feelings of, I have to have this all figured out, or I don't know who to go to, or what will people think of me if they think I need help, right?
Yes, right.
So what is underneath that is like a layer of trust. And if you're in a cohort, it makes sense that you start to trust each other because it's like summer camp. You just see all the things, right? You see people at their best, you see people at their worst, you learn about yourself in the group. But you've had a couple of different cohorts now, and you are expanding, within Florida, beyond South Florida. How are you maintaining that level of trust so that people really feel confident, like even as you expand and you reach more people, like this is still, I know I can trust the people in this group and I know I can ask for help and it's okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have 5 cohorts that have been completed now in 3 years. And with each one, I think we learn a little bit more. We put place, I think it's because we understand that learning doesn't just happen inside the classroom. The trust doesn't just happen inside the classroom. So we work on community initiatives where people are able to collaborate in their daily work, in their daily life. We show up for life's milestones. We show up for the events that people are putting on, and we really support each other. I have to say, yesterday, you were on a call for Venture Cafe Miami, where one of our mavens, Jasmine Roger Shaw, was leading a session on the census. And it was wonderful to see how many mavens actually turned out to learn and support a fellow maven and brought along other people. Because like we say, it's not enough just to get the information for yourself, but you must also share that information. So I think we do it on many different layers. There's the classroom instruction, but then there's also how do we collaborate in our professional networks? How do we make sure that our wellness is together? And I think that's something that distinguishes us in leadership development, is that we commit a significant amount of resources to the wellness aspect. So it's not only the physical. We have a yoga and meditation program that we offer free. But we also take time to make sure that there are mental health strategies within our curriculum. And one of our graduates, Yasmin Flasserstein, out of Orlando, she has really helped us in our understanding of how to make the classroom space around mental well-being. And everybody has a partner, everybody learns how to commit daily strategies to mental health. We've really started to work that in as part of the process, because when you show up as your whole self. And so we can't always say that to people and not mean it. We have to take the time to employ the strategies that get us the most inclusive environment that we possibly can. So I think that's where that trust, going back to your original question, comes in, because I really believe that we're intentional about how many different layers can we foster meaningful connection in the space. Not just take it for granted that we're all in this kind of class together, But even in our selection process, they have an application, they have individual interviews, but then people pass on to the group selection process, and we spend a few hours getting to know each other in the group selection, and we see if there's a fit, you know. So
wow, I'm so inspired by what you're doing. I really want to kind of go back to something that you were saying about like showing up and making sure that the investment is not just in you, that the Mavens, you know, have a responsibility to share this and pass it on. So that is kind work, and that's also taking responsibility that may be inconvenient, but that really, I think, shows up in the way that the Mavens live the values of Maven.
right.
Because that layer of commitment and knowing that their whole self is part of the program, and also part of that is sharing and passing it along, is a really different kind of thing than a lot of leadership programs that we hear about. You know, some of them are very prestigious, but the idea is you invest in a leader, and that leader, through their work and all the people they touch, you know, and kind of like maybe more of a hierarchical way rather than a lateral way,
Right.
it's just a very different approach. And I think it's part of what makes Maven really, really special, that we have people who are paying it forward by paying it sideways and not just up and down, right?
I think it's, you know, I think it's how you, yes, by having this kind of expansive approach, I think you're able to have these deeper roots that allow you to aspire to higher heights. For us, I think it's part of why the culturally fluent aspect of leadership comes into our curriculum, because quite frankly, this is the expectation of communities of color, that there is this sense of community around it, and that the reason why I say that if we look at our work and our experience, our circumstance from an asset frame, then what we will say is that yes, community colors are often under-resourced or overlooked or marginalized in some kind of way, but we're still here. We're still here. We're still doing phenomenal things. We're still getting outcomes when people think that maybe we wouldn't. And I think that that is a model of resilience. But the way that that happens is because we say, okay, we're in this together. And that is the expectation. And you can't do it another way and have credibility. So that's what I think. We're just drawing on what naturally exists within communities of color and queer communities of color.
Amazing. I think what I'm hearing also is kind of like a new insight, which is, you've talked about inclusive spaces where we all benefit, but what you're talking about that I'm hearing is actually that resilience is inclusion. It is inclusivity. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. I just feel like yes. I mean, I just feel like we throw these words around, you know, sustainability, resilience, intersectionality, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what are we talking about? We're talking about occupying a space where we're all going to be around, okay? And I think if there's anything about this pandemic that we're living through right now, is that we are starting to have to think a little bit differently about our experience and how much we depend on each other and how fragile our existence actually is. Economic fragility, health fragility, housing fragility, all of these kinds of things that you take for granted on a daily basis, or you might think that you got all on your own and you can do it by yourself. You come to realize in moments like these that nope, not quite. That there is far more interconnectedness than we realize, and that if we take time to cultivate it and nurture it outside of times of resilience, we're better off. I think what we've seen in our work in Orlando is that a good part of the people we support, their work rose after the post-tragedy and seeing that the infrastructure that their communities needed weren't necessarily in place or weren't necessarily operating at the level that they needed to, and so they created it. And what we're seeing now in this time, I think, is that once you get into a period of crisis, it's too late to start trying to figure out resilience. It's too late. The stuff has hit the fan.
Yeah.
So it's going to take you some time. But if you figure out what are the best strategies while things are good,
Yeah.
maybe not perfect, but good, how are we building that infrastructure? How deep are our relationships? How clear are our strategies? And not just from a standpoint of gain, but from thriving, from abundance. How is it that we're really working to build resilience? And that's more than policies. I think that that's fostering a sense of community and deep relationships so that you're not shy about picking up the phone and asking for help, like something you said earlier.
Yeah, and something I was talking about yesterday is investing, like doubling down on relationship building, especially at a time like this.
Yeah.
That, you know, everybody is getting hit by this, right? So there is no profile or identity that is not being touched by the virus, right?
Right.
What is different, I think, is that exactly what you're saying. You can't wait until this time to really build relationships. But what I'm asking people to do, I actually challenge them to reach out to 5 people who they haven't spoken to in a while and just let them know that they're thinking about them.
Yeah.
Or ask them a question or to offer something.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a way of like kind of restarting this, even as we're like physically distanced, we're maybe not socially distanced unless we choose to be.
Right.
And, you know, you definitely don't get the same kind of interface, but there's still ways to play, right?
Right.
And that brings me to play. So you said that your ways of learning are learn, play, share, or
yes.
What is that again? That's not your learning.
It is.
So tell me more. I'm always up to learn. That's part of the reason I like to do these streams. Be a consultant because you get to learn about a lot of things you wouldn't otherwise. Learn, play, share. Tell us more about the play part, because not a lot of people are invoking that, and I think it's super important. But I'm in the minority.
I think it's a critical piece to adult learning. So in our work, we're doing professional development, and so you can learn all you want in the classroom all day, but do you have an opportunity to immediately apply? And not just like, okay, when I get back to work on Monday, I'm going to use it in work. But like, how is it that we can support you in realizing the play component? We do a lot of play inside of the classroom, challenging people to put some of the concepts to work right away. And we take the play component very seriously because you have to try. You have to try. But what we know is that everybody doesn't have the freedom to fail. And if you don't feel that you have the freedom to fail, then you don't have the license to be creative and innovative. And so right now, we're talking about innovation and creativity and developing talent and all of these great things. But we realize that everybody doesn't have freedom to fail. All right? If a woman comes into the position where there have been no previous women, this is not then Marta who messes up. It's, well, we tried, we hired that chick and she didn't work and we don't want to take that risk again, right? So, you know, that's the glass cliff. To me, I feel like everybody needs to feel like whether you rise or fall, it's okay because we're in a learning environment and you can create learning environments in your work culture as well. And that to me is super important. And it's a lot of work establishing the systems, the rituals that say it's okay to fall flat on your face. Let's do it here with our colleagues so that we can have a little bit more confidence going out into the world. The play is the reason why I think that so many of our graduates feel that they are able to amplify their impact, that their network is larger, that they feel more resilient, that people listen to them more. I think that's the secret sauce right there.
Mm. That's actually making me think of, so I just happen to have this book here. Forgive my reach here. I don't know if you've read Jean Case's book, Be Fearless.
No.
But so she is the head of a major foundation, but she came through a lot of challenges to be in that position. And one of the things that she advises her grantees on, and that they embrace as a value at the Case Foundation, is taking 1% of the budget as like experimental. So I want to apply that to the concept of time and say, what if all of us dedicated 1% of our time or more? A lot of people are doing 0 to play.
Right.
Because I think you're right. I mean, this is what Montessori school is about, that children learn through play, and adults, just because they're older, doesn't mean that they don't still learn through play.
No.
So
that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and we don't prioritize it because we think we're supposed to be serious, or we think we have to have it all together, or that
Right.
We'll be personally embarrassed if somebody catches us. But look, right. You were the person who brought the D-Nice dance parties to my attention. Totally play, right? And we
yes, of course.
Hungry for it, especially at a time when everything feels totally out of control.
Yeah.
So think about 1% for play, all you serious people. And maybe if you already have play in your life or your career, what if you devoted just like bump up that number a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
You got to tell us about the fan.
What would you like to know about the fan?
Tell people what it is and what this kind of like ritual has started to, it's like a legendary thing inside Maven. Maybe I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I'm calling you out.
Well, we when everybody graduates, they're gifted a fan, a Maven fan. The fan comes really out of queer Black and brown culture, out of the ballroom scene. And it is a symbol of strength, of play, of fierceness, of things I can't say on here. Just this attitude of yes, I'm here. I'm going to show up and I'm going to make noise. And yes, it's just that level of confidence. And I didn't know that it was going to be such a big deal from our Mavens. It's plastic and nylon. But what it represents is completion. What it represents is the feeling of being in a house or in a family of togetherness. And what makes me happy about when people say, ooh, when do I get my fan? When you graduate, and the idea that means something to people. It is about being included into something fun, and that it shows, I think, a little bit of a different kind of spin on professional development, that everybody has this and keeps it and cracks it and makes all of this noise at graduation, because I think it shows then that we've done our job in fostering this sense of togetherness. And we're going to be, as a community of Mavens, meeting tomorrow on our birthday through Zoom, just to do a check-in and see how everybody is doing. Do you need just to vent? Do you just want to see faces? Do you need advice on this payroll protection plan? Do you need other guidance, connection to a relief fund? Or are you just tired of being in your home alone? And it's nice that so many people are turning out for this call tomorrow, that it makes me feel really good. But that's the fan. I don't have one here with me. I did not think to bring that, but yes.
I kind of surprised you, right?
Yeah, kind of.
It's also a rite of passage, like you're saying. So it's kind of like, I love how you've brought the personality and the play into absolutely everything that you do. One of the reasons I love working with you is I always get to play too. So definitely looking at resilience and inclusion. Part of it is just like wanting to work with people who are really fun and who inspire the playful side or the creative side of what you're bringing to the table.
Well, that means a lot. And so it's always a pleasure working with you as well. to me, I just feel like when we started, we just decided that we didn't want to design anything that we didn't want to sit through, because I mean, we have to sit through it. So if it's not fun for us, we don't think it's going to be fun for anybody else. And we really try to make it as fun as we possibly can. I mean, you come to Maven Rising every October, you know exactly what we mean. We don't want a big boring conference where everybody comes together and kind of gets lost in a crowd. It's how do you make fun connections? It's small enough, intimate enough that you can say, oh, I know this person, you're gonna be perfect. Let me snatch you up. And then let's go on the rooftop and celebrate the excellence that is in social impact, and have, fun with like Guitars Over Guns playing as the house band. Like, to me, there always has to be this aspect of joy in the work, because a lot of the work that our mavens are doing is in response to a trauma. They more often than not have had a trauma in their life. I'm thinking of one of our mavens, the youngest maven, about to graduate from FIU, was a survivor of sexual violence on campus. Designed an entire initiative so that nobody else has to go through that. Why? Because there was not inclusive sexual violence and sexual health materials available at the time. So they have to go and create this training initiative so that they can positively impact the campus climate. These kinds of things don't always say joy, don't always say fun, okay? But how is it that we infuse that? Because if we don't have that sense of joy, if we are not able to draw it out of other people, connect on some level of joy, and that's what I guess the fan represents, this kind of freedom, then how do we endure in the work? How do you thrive in the work? How do you not get burnt out and jaded and discouraged? You have to find some level, an aspect of joy in the work. Otherwise, I don't know how long anybody lasts in it, and the work is never done. So we have to figure out ways of thriving in that work.
Totally. And to close out, I'd like to ask you either one of two things, or maybe you do both.
Okay.
What do you do, or is there a challenge that you're willing to issue here about bringing joy into people's lives, or in your life, whoever's watching?
Right.
And or what is the thing you do that brings you joy? Maybe one or two, up to you.
Okay, so I'm not going to issue any challenges, because the second choice I'm going to take is, right now memes bring me joy. So my meme that I posted the other day was of this Muppet that's like, I'm not accepting any of y'all's challenges, like the man. So I'm not,
I get it.
No more challenges. I'm so sick of seeing those, but I love sassy memes. The more attitude, the more shade, the better. I love that. I saw one today that a friend of mine posted, and it was like, stay home, just like the 106 million of you did in 2016. And I was like, oh. So to me, those help me. Those help me get through. They're funny. Any of the ones about Tiger King, those are the ones that really bring me joy. That's probably the most superficial joy, but on a deeper level, I think being able to work with people I consider friends like you and all of these other folks, it's not just professional relationships. I'm happy to have a drink with these folks, and to hang out and see how people are doing. And when you go to events, you find it almost hard to distinguish between the professional and the personal, because, you would go to this anyway. Even if it didn't have something to do, you weren't there to support a community partner or something like that, you would still go because it's great. So I feel like connecting with just some of the badass talents that are well, really, I get to travel across the state and see wonderful people. that brings a lot of joy. That brings a lot of joy. So I'm going to have that tomorrow on our 3rd anniversary when we're surrounded by all of our mavens. Yeah.
Amazing. And that's also about bringing your whole self.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back.
You got it. You got it. You got
Corey, this has been such a fun conversation. I'm so excited about what you all are doing. Congratulations on 3. And I know the tremendous impact that the Mavens are having all around, way far beyond our state. And so I want to thank you also for your leadership and for the work that you do and for being the person you are. I am much enriched, and I know now more people are as a result of
it.
Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. I do so appreciate the resources and help and support that you offer to Maven since its inception, but also to countless other organizations that really depend on your insight and your wit and your intelligence and all of that great stuff. So thank you for sharing it so generously.
Thank you, Corey.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.